The Order has grown complacent. We cannot continue to turn a blind eye to the Republic's failings.
Dooku's words echoed in the empty chamber, met only by silence. His lips tightened, a flicker of frustration crossing his aristocratic features. He gazed out the window, observing the endless streams of air traffic crisscrossing the Coruscant skyline.
And what of the suffering on worlds beyond this shining capital? Are we to ignore their plight in favor of maintaining the status quo?
His voice, usually so controlled, held a hint of steel. Dooku turned sharply, his cloak swirling around him as he swept from the room. In the corridor outside, Qui-Gon Jinn stood silently, having overheard the soliloquy. His brow furrowed as he watched his former master disappear around a corner, the weight of unspoken concerns hanging heavy in the air. Days later, Dooku found himself on a diplomatic mission to Salust. The acrid smell of sulfur permeated the air as he disembarked from his sleek Jedi starfighter. A group of local officials awaited him, their faces masks of practiced neutrality.
Master Jedi, we welcome you to our world, though I fear you may find our situation less than ideal.
Dooku's keen eyes took in the dilapidated buildings, the poorly maintained infrastructure.
Indeed. It seems the Republic's promises of aid have fallen woefully short. Show me everything, and spare no detail. I intend to see the full extent of this oversight.
As they toured the struggling industrial centers and overcrowded residential zones, Dooku's expression grew increasingly grim. The Celestians spoke of delayed shipments, unfair trade agreements, and a sense of abandonment by the distant Senate on Coruscant.
How long has this been allowed to continue?
Years, Master Jedi. Our pleas fall on deaf ears in the Senate chambers.
Dooku's hand clenched at his side, his knuckles white beneath his gloves. The injustice of it all burned within him, fueling a growing resolve.
This cannot stand. I will speak to the Senate myself if I must. The Republic has failed you, but I swear I will not.
The gratitude in the Celestian's eyes only deepened Dooku's conviction as he prepared to depart. His comlink chimed, a message from Sereno, his homeworld, an invitation to return, to reconnect with his noble heritage. Dooku stared at the blinking light, feeling the pull of destiny.
Perhaps it's time I remembered where I came from. The Jedi preached detachment, but in doing so, have we lost touch with those we're meant to serve?
With a decisive nod, Dooku set course for Sereno, unaware of the profound impact this journey would have on his future and that of the entire galaxy. The verdant world of Sereno loomed before Dooku's starfighter as he approached. Rolling hills and majestic forests stretched as far as the eye could see, punctuated by the elegant spires of noble houses. As he landed, a sense of familiarity washed over him, stirring long-buried memories.
Count Dooku, welcome home. Your family's estate awaits your return.
Dooku's eyebrow arched at the use of his hereditary title. He had forsaken such things upon joining the Jedi Order, yet now they called to him like a siren's song.
I am here merely as a Jedi, investigating reports of unrest.
The noble's knowing smile spoke volumes.
Of course, Master Jedi, but surely you can spare a moment to revisit your roots.
As Dooku toured his ancestral lands, he felt a growing conflict within. The opulence of Sereno stood in stark contrast to the suffering he had witnessed on Sullust. Yet, he could not deny the allure of his birthright, the power it represented to effect real change.
The Jedi seek to serve, but from a distance. Perhaps true change requires a more direct approach.
His musings were interrupted by the arrival of a sleek shuttle. A figure emerged, cloaked in the fineries of Coruscant's political elite.
Master Dooku, what a pleasure to find you here. I had hoped we might discuss the future of the Republic.
Senator Palpatine's smile was warm, but his eyes held a calculating gleam. Dooku sensed an opportunity, a chance to voice his concerns to someone with the power to act.
Senator, your timing is impeccable. I have much to report about the state of the Outer Rim.
As they walked through the manicured gardens of the Dooku estate, their conversation turned to matters of governance and reform. Palpatine listened intently, his expressions a masterclass in sympathy and concern.
Your insights are invaluable, Master Dooku. The Senate could benefit greatly from such wisdom. Have you considered taking a more active role in galactic affairs?
Dooku paused, the weight of the question hanging between them. The seed of an idea began to take root in his mind, one that would shake the very foundations of the Jedi order.
Perhaps it is time for a change, Senator. The galaxy cannot afford for us to remain idle any longer.
Chapter 2. The Shadows Lengthen. The cavernous depths of the Jedi archives stretched before Master Dooku, a labyrinth of knowledge, both ancient and arcane. Shelves towered to dizzying heights, their contents glowing with an ethereal blue light. The Jedi Master's footsteps echoed softly as he navigated the maze, his fingers trailing along the spines of countless holocrons and tomes.
There must be answers here. There must be.
His voice, barely a whisper, carried the weight of growing disillusionment. Benji Manoir, Dooku's eyes, once bright with the idealism of the Jedi Order, now held a shadow of doubt. He paused before a section marked with symbols so old they had been nearly forgotten by the Order.
Here we are, the forbidden knowledge.
With reverence, he extracted a holocron, its surface etched with intricate patterns. As he activated it, the device hummed to life, projecting the image of an ancient Jedi Master.
Beware, seeker of knowledge. The path you tread is fraught with peril. The Force is not merely light or dark, but a spectrum of infinite possibility.
Hours melted into days as he delved deeper into the archives, uncovering techniques and philosophies long buried by the Jedi Council.
Remarkable. We've been blind, willfully ignorant of the Force's true nature.
I thought I might find you here, old friend. You've been scarce these past weeks.
Dooku turned, his eyes gleaming with newfound knowledge and barely contained excitement.
Sifo Dyas, you won't believe what I've discovered. Our understanding of the Force, it's painfully limited.
Careful, Dooku. Such thoughts border on heresy.
Heresy, or the key to our salvation? The Republic crumbles around us, and we stand idly by, constrained by outdated dogma.
Sifo Dyas stepped closer, lowering his voice despite the emptiness of the archives.
I share your concerns about the Republic, but surely there are other ways.
Other ways? Look around you, my friend. Corruption festers in the Senate, and the Jedi, we become nothing more than glorified peacekeepers.
With a wave of his hand, Dooku levitated several holocrons simultaneously, their projections intertwining in a complex dance of light and knowledge. Sifo Dyas' eyes widened in astonishment. Really?
How are you doing that? I've never seen such control.
The Force is more than light and dark, Sifo Dyas. It's raw power waiting to be harnessed. With this knowledge, we could reshape the galaxy.
The two Jedi Masters exchanged a long look, years of friendship and shared ideals hanging in the balance.
What are you proposing, Dooku?
A new path, one that doesn't shy away from power but embraces it, for the good of the galaxy.
In the days that followed, Dooku and Sifo Dyas met in secret, their conversations growing more intense and far-reaching. The shadows under their eyes deepened as they grappled with the weight of their decisions.
A clone army? Dooku, that's beyond anything we've considered before.
The Republic is vulnerable, my friend. We've seen it firsthand. If we don't act now, everything we've sworn to protect will crumble.
Their clandestine meetings did not go unnoticed. In the halls of the Senate, whispers of change began to circulate. Dooku's eloquence and charisma drew politicians to him like moths to a flame.
Master Dooku, your words are compelling, but surely you don't mean to suggest the Jedi should take a more active role in governance?
Senator, we stand at a crossroads. The old ways have failed us. It's time for a new vision, one that brings true stability to the galaxy.
As Dooku's influence grew, so did the unease within the Jedi Council. Master Yoda watched his former Padawan with growing concern, sensing the turmoil within him.
Troubled you are, Dooku. Sense it I do.
The galaxy is troubled, Master Yoda. How can I not be affected?
Careful, you must be. To the dark side. Such thoughts can lead.
But Dooku's path was already diverging from the Jedi way. A mission to Galadron became the crucible in which his doubts were forged into conviction.
We've received reports of Mandalorian activity on Galadron. The planetary governor has requested our intervention.
Mandalorians? This requires a delicate touch, Dooku.
Indeed. Prepare a team. We leave immediately.
The forests of Galadron echoed with the clash of lightsabers and the report of blaster fire. Dooku led the charge, his blade a blur of deadly precision.
Push forward. We must end this quickly.
But as the battle raged, doubt gnawed at Dooku. The Mandalorians fought with a desperation that spoke of more than mere aggression.
Wait! We were hired for a job! We're not here to
The warrior's words were cut short by a lightsaber strike. As the dust settled, Dooku surveyed the carnage, his heart heavy with the weight of lives taken.
What have we done? We're peacekeepers, not executioners.
The massacre at Galadron haunted Dooku, further souring his view of the Order and the Republic it served. But it was a personal tragedy that would ultimately shatter his remaining faith. The words struck Dooku like a physical blow. His former Padawan, the closest thing he had to a son, gone.
How? Who could have?
In that moment, something broke within Dooku. The Sith, thought long extinct, had returned, and the Jedi, in their complacency, had been blind to the threat.
This cannot stand. The Order has failed. The Republic has failed.
Days later, in a ceremony that sent shockwaves through the Jedi Order, Dooku stood before the Council, his resolve hardened.
Masters of the Council, I stand before you today, not as a peer, but as one who can no longer walk this path. I hereby renounce my vows as a Jedi.
A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Master Yoda's ears drooped, his ancient eyes filled with sorrow.
Reconsider. You must. Dooku, clouded your judgment has become.
No, Master Yoda. For the first time in years, I see clearly. The Jedi Order is a relic of a bygone age. I must forge a new path.
With those words, Dooku unclipped his lightsaber and placed it on the floor before the council. Without another word, he turned and strode from the chamber, his cloak billowing behind him. As the doors of the Jedi Temple closed behind him, Count Dooku of Serenno emerged. Chapter 3. The Count's Gambit. The opulent halls of Serenno's royal palace echoed with the measured footsteps of Count Dooku. His regal bearing and piercing gaze commanded respect from all who beheld him. The former Jedi Master had shed his humble robes for attire befitting his noble station, a cape of deep crimson draped over his shoulders, its hem brushing against the polished floor.
Senator, I appreciate you taking the time to hear my concerns.
Dooku's rich baritone carried across the grand reception chamber, where a group of influential senators had gathered. His words, carefully chosen, dripped with charisma and conviction.
The Republic has grown stagnant, corrupt. The Jedi, once guardians of peace and justice, now serve as little more than the Senate's enforcers. We must forge a new path.
But Count, what you're suggesting, it borders on sedition.
The senator's face paled, his eyes darting nervously to his colleagues.
I speak only of reform, my friend, of returning to the ideals upon which the Republic was founded. Surely you can see the wisdom in that.
A murmur of agreement rippled through the assembled dignitaries. Dooku allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. The seeds of dissent had been planted. Later that evening, as Serenno's twin moons cast their pale light across the palace grounds, Dooku stood alone on a secluded balcony.
Most impressive, my friend. You've quite a talent for persuasion.
The silky voice seemed to materialize from the shadows themselves. Dooku turned, his hand instinctively moving to where his lightsaber once hung.
Chancellor Palpatine, I wasn't aware you were on Serenno.
The older man stepped into the moonlight, his kindly features belying the darkness that lurked beneath.
Oh, I have my ways, Count, just as you have yours.
Palpatine's eyes gleamed with an unnatural intensity.
I sense your frustration with the current state of affairs, your desire for change.
The Republic is failing, Chancellor. Surely you can see that.
Oh, I see far more than you realize, my friend.
With a gesture, Palpatine's benign demeanor melted away. In its place stood a figure cloaked in darkness, eyes burning with Sith yellow.
I am Darth Sidious, Lord of the Sith, and I offer you the power to reshape the galaxy as you see fit.
Dooku's eyes widened, a mixture of shock and intrigue playing across his aristocratic features.
The Sith? But how?
We have existed in the shadows for a millennium, waiting for this moment. Join me, and together we shall bring order to the chaos.
Dooku hesitated for a heartbeat, decades of Jedi training warring with his ambition, but in the end, the promise of true change proved too alluring.
What must I do, my master?
Sidious's lips curled into a triumphant smile.
Kneel before me, Count Dooku of Serenno. Rise as Darth Tyranus, my apprentice.
In the days that followed, Dooku threw himself into his new role with fervor. He traveled the galaxy, his silver tongue and formidable presence swaying system after system to his cause.
The Republic has failed you, just as it has failed countless others. Join us, and together we shall forge a new future.
On a rain-soaked platform on Camino, Dooku met with a man whose face would soon be known across the galaxy.
Jango Fett, your reputation precedes you.
Cut the flattery, Count. What do you want?
Two lips quirked in amusement at the Mandalorian's bluntness.
How would you like to be the template for the greatest army the galaxy has ever seen?
Fett's eyes narrowed, suspicion warring with interest.
I'm listening.
As the pieces of Sidious's grand plan fell into place, Dooku established a hidden base on the remote world of Geonosis. Within its cavernous factories, legions of battle droids took shape.
Impressive, aren't they?
The Geonosian Archduke, Poggle the Lesser, chittered in agreement.
They will serve you well, Count.
The final act of Dooku's transformation played out in a vast underground chamber on Geonosis. Representatives from a dozen worlds gathered, their faces a mixture of determination and trepidation.
My friends, we stand on the precipice of a new era. The Confederacy of Independent Systems will be a beacon of hope in these dark times.
A chorus of cheers echoed through the chamber. As the meeting concluded, Dooku stepped out onto a balcony overlooking an immense cavern. Row upon row of battle droids stretched as far as the eye could see, a mechanical army poised to challenge the Republic. Count Dooku, once a revered Jedi Master, now stood as Darth Tyranus, Lord of the Sith and leader of the Separatist movement. His eyes, gleaming with purpose, gazed out at the forces he had assembled. The galaxy stood on the brink of war, and Dooku would be the one to push it over the edge.